Gary Stevenson from GarysEconomics has burst onto the scene in recent months to quite considerable controversy.
£1,000 cash richer than before COVID. I tell you who probably is, every single person on this panel.
For those that like Gary, he is a rebellious, energetic character who truly cares about the working classes and their plight with growing financial inequality.
Yeah. But do you think there are new opportunities that didn't exist for our parents or grandparents, but they do exist for people today?
I think the reality is, for kids from poor backgrounds, it is almost impossible to realistically get even financial security, never mind wealth.
For those that don't like Gary, he is a dishevelled, cocky, arrogant individual whose performance and mannerisms are an act that he puts on as he talks complete and utter nonsense.
You know, our kids will be rich, their kids will be poor, and I just think we should be honest with them. Capitalism's finished. We won. Well done, Stephen. Well done, Daniel. Well done, Gary. It's over now.
Gary Stevenson is therefore like Marmite. You either love him or you hate him. But one thing that no one talks about is that Gary is consistently breaking all of the rules of authority. So is he doing it on purpose, for his personal brand, or is there more to it? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. We're going to look at the cheat codes behind authority. I'm going to explain what Gary does and what he doesn't do, and give you the insights into how you can build your own personal authority in every area of life. For business, for work, for your romantic life, wherever you want it. These skills can be used everywhere. First, we must ask and answer the question, what is authority? Well, in everyday life, there tends to be more ambiguity around what authority actually is. But most experts agree that authority, especially in a social setting, revolves around 5 important triggers. They are movement, confidence, internal feeling, appearance, and connection or attention. It is the combination of these 5 traits that make someone appear, to us anyway, human beings, as authoritative. Now, just to be clear, there are 2 kinds of authority. There is real authority, like a police officer or someone that has actual power over us physically. And then there is perceived authority, where we give someone power over our thoughts and over our actions. Gary only has perceived authority, and the combination of these 5 traits can either increase or decrease that perceived authority. For example, if someone is moving quite quickly, right, then we know that they have that sense of fear. Right? Remember the previous video with Keir Starmer? The faster you move, the more anxious and fearful that you are. Now imagine if they're not only moving quickly, they're also looking dishevelled, right, in their appearance. Their head is down here, looking at the floor. These are all the classic non-verbal signs of someone who is low in confidence. And if they're low in confidence, as that first pillar, they're low in authority. The outcome being that we wouldn't listen to that person, we wouldn't give that person the time of day. Especially if they tried to give us advice or try and speak to us about something. So how does Gary get away with scoring so low on the authority index as he goes against the grain almost consistently with everything that we know? Now, let's start looking at some of Gary's traits. Some of Gary's traits, I would be amiss if I didn't mention the first trait, which is his posture. Good God, Gary has bad posture. He consistently slouches during interviews. And when he isn't slouching, he's bent over a desk. Now you can really see the stark difference here in this podcast appearance on the Diary of a CEO. Just compare his posture to Bartlett's, right? Bartlett's posture is consistent. It's straight. He very rarely deviates from how he's sitting. Whereas Gary, Jesus Christ, look at Gary. He's either slouching, bent over, or he's consistently moving in and out of his seat, in and out, backwards and forwards. It's really quite disconcerting. Right? It's quite uncomfortable to watch. So, what does this tell us? Well, in clinical settings, you have doctors, surgeons. Doctors who stand tall, right, stand tall with their shoulders back, they build better rapport and empower patients more effectively than those who, slouch. So, not only do patients have a much better outcome because they feel more confident in their doctor or their surgeon, it also affects our perception of people. It's not just external. Bad posture rewires your brain. Now, I found this out very recently, but if you stand, shoulders back, sort of power poses where you feel powerful, it can increase testosterone in men by up to 20%. And of course, we all know that testosterone makes us feel better, and it also helps feel more authoritative and more confident. Not only that, slouching does the opposite. It tanks your confidence and it slows down cognitive processing. So if you're a sloucher, slouching is making you dumb. Stop doing it, please. Why is Gary slouching? I think like so many of the things that I'm going to go through with you and show you, I believe it's because Gary's trying to be more relatable to his audience. Let's be honest with ourselves, many people don't spend time trying to correct their poor posture, and they slouch, right? Who needs authority when it's getting in the way of connecting to your audience? So I think that in one sense this is going to be quite calculated. I think he's doing this on purpose. Or, and this is a big or, he just has a really bad posture. From all those days that he spent hunched over a computer, trading away and extracting wealth from the economy, from everyday working people. Next thing to talk about is clothing. Now, I'm not talking here about a person's branded clothing. What I'm talking about here isn't the brand that they wear, right? It's how smart the clothes are, right? Are they wrinkled? Does it look like they're actually cared about their appearance? These are all questions that you have to ask when you're looking at clothing in the context of authority. Gary consistently either wears hoodies or t-shirts, and it's quite clearly his personal brand that he's created for himself. Once again, I think he's doing this to resonate with people who don't particularly care about their appearance. But while this boosts his authenticity is totally different to authority. Diminishes his perceived authority enormously. This is why a lot of people don't take him seriously. So when anybody who is looking for these signals, these authority cues, well, whether we listen to him or not, the brain is using clothing as a heuristic to assess authority quickly. The brain is going to make a decision, within a fraction of a second. So a sharp suit or a uniform, it triggers automatic respect a hell of a lot more effectively than what Gary's do. But that only matters if someone cares about respect, and I don't think Gary does. His entire personal brand is about not caring about social norms, or what the system wants in any way, shape or form. He is, or at least he's trying to make himself out to be, a rebel in every sense of the word. And this is how he builds his personal brand. Now, before anyone in the comments says to me, oh, what about Steve Jobs? He wore turtleneck. Well, a quick note on Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, right? Steve Jobs wore black turtlenecks. And that worked because he already had existing authority. So he was building that personal brand of his. But for most, this would just look like eccentricity. Mark Zuckerberg wears a hoodie, which is perfectly acceptable in Silicon Valley. It's a well-established anti-establishment culture. But it would utterly erode any kind of authority, say, in a high-stakes negotiation, a bank boardroom, or if you're looking for some sort of investment. This is to say that modelling Gary here would be silly. It's ridiculous. Unless, of course, you are trying to ingratiate yourself with the kind of people that don't care about these kind of things, right? These typical authority cheat codes are pretty much useless when you're going for a personal brand play for people who don't care. So it's an important piece of building authority. Once again, he's going against the grain on these typical authority cheat codes in order to reinforce his personal brand. So unless that you're trying to do that yourself, you want to ensure that you look smart. You want to ensure you look presentable and that you're in control of your environment, the things around you, so that it's painting a picture. It's painting an image. This is called frame control. And I'm going to do another video about frame control later down the road, so keep an eye out for that. Another important piece of building authority is movement. We're taught that the slower we move, the more authority that we can convey. This is because slow body movements, especially deliberate body movements, increase perceived authority by signalling composure, comfort, and innate control. Whereas fast body movements, as we found out with the Keir Starmer video, if you haven't watched that yet, please do. And remember, like, comment, subscribe. Fast body movements is associated with fear, with anxiety. And Gary uses a lot of these fast movements. He's seen consistently reacting to what is being said. Something to understand about authority is that it's very deep within our minds. We're consistently scanning the environment to know who to listen to, who to pay attention to. And so authority is more about how we move and how we project ourselves and how we speak, and a whole lot less to do with what we say. The cheat code here is to understand that our subconscious scans all the time for these authority killers, like rapid body movement, rapid head turns, and gestures that betray a hidden agenda of fear or anxiety, or even over-aggressiveness from that fear. Which means that one of the best ways that you can convey authority in any environment is to slow down. Slow down your body movements, slow down your speech, slow down your breathing. And if you're going to make a move, make it as deliberate as possible, because true authority manifests in composure. One of the best tips that I can give you is to deliberately pace your speech or your movements, and then increase them where necessary. Slow them back down again and repeat. This is one of the best ways that you can rapture your audience and who you're speaking to. It's one of the best ways of growing your perceived authority with those around you. This is one of the reasons why Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are basically seen as the boring twins, because these people, they don't modulate the speed in which they speak. It's just the same all the way through, and their tone remains the same all the way through, and it's like watching paint dry in voice form. Jeez, it just grates on you, right? It just grates and grates and grates. So increasing the speed at which you're speaking and then slowing it back down. You want to be doing this, right? You want to be doing this. That way it enraptures people, it captures them, so they listen to you, they listen for longer. If you're not doing that, then you're just boring, right? And you're in control of how you speak, right? You're in control of that. Right? Just bring it into your conscious awareness. Going back to Gary, I think Gary, honestly, he's just bad at this. I think he's just bad at slowing speech down and having that up-down. I don't think he's doing it on purpose. I think he's doing it because as a trader, he had to make things quick, right? He had to make everything speedy. So these are behavioural tics, I think, from his previous life. I also think he'd be more persuasive if he did slow down. So take notice. Try and catch yourself when you feel as though that you're moving too quickly. Just slow it down. It doesn't take that much. Feel like you're speaking too much, just slow it down. Too quick, just slow it down. Yeah? The same can be said, right, for these next two authority builders, which are deep breathing and a calm speech tempo. I mentioned in the previous video with Keir Starmer about shutter speed, and that the speed at which we blink or the speed at which we speak or move is an indication of stress, of fear. Deep breathing, that is, breathing with our bellies full, right? So our diaphragm extends, right? Not just breathing in with our chests or our throats, right? That is by far one of the best things that you can do. It is an indication of confidence. So animals that are in a state of fear, they breathe in and out quite quickly. They don't breathe deeply at all because they're in a state of anxiety and fear. And so they want to have these quick breaths so that they can get away quickly. I don't think Gary has taken a single deep breath in any of the videos I've watched. And I've watched a lot of Gary Economics videos. I haven't seen him do a single deep breath except out of exasperation, right, or being fed up. This would also explain why he slouches all the time. Right? He's taking short breaths with his chest or with his throat rather than filling all the way up in his belly. And when you fill all the way up in your belly, you naturally straighten up. He's not doing that, so he's not getting rid of the adrenaline. So subconsciously, this is signalling to everybody around him that frankly, he's weak. He's scared. And you know, if someone's weak, or they appear weak and they appear scared or anxious, maybe we shouldn't listen to them. I can't exaggerate deep breaths enough. Like, they're a cheat code in of themselves, right? For lots of important reasons. They relieve stress, they lower visible anxiety, it relaxes you, it relaxes your shoulders, it steadies your gaze, it deepens your voice. If there is one thing to take away from this video, it's to breathe. Having control over your breath is a cheat code all in itself. And I've seen many a negotiation fail because a person didn't take a moment to breathe. Which meant that all that neurochemistry, all that adrenaline from a confrontation, it didn't dissipate. I should also mention, breathing through your nose. Don't be a mouth breather. You have this thing for a reason, so use it. Finally, the last thing I want to mention with Gary's economics is his speech temper. Gary doesn't have a calm speech temper. Right? He often talks quite quickly. And again, I don't think he's doing this as part of his personal brand. I think he's doing this because it is a behavioural tick that he's picked up in his time working as a trader. Now, the reason why our tempo increases when we're speaking is mainly because we're nervous, agitated, or angry. Now, Gary portrays himself as a very passionate, yet slightly aggressive and agitated individual. So he constantly interrupts people who he's having a conversation with. He speaks quickly. And when he's interrupting people, I think his point is lost. So when confronted by someone who is talking slowly, it opens the doorway for others to see him as a rude and an arrogant person, rather than someone who wants to be perceived as fighting for the working classes. So let's summarise these authority cheat codes. Number one, Gary's slouching. He leans over desks, and unlike Bartlett's straight posture, this slumping is signalling low confidence, and as we know, it rewires the brain negatively. By having power poses, we know we get a 20% boost in testosterone. I think Gary does it to seem relatable, or it's from years of hunched over trading. The second thing we mentioned was clothing. He wears hoodies and t-shirts. He looks authentic. It's to rebel against norms. But it kills authority. Suits or nice shirts, it triggers instant respect, and hoodies don't, unless you're Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, with pre-existing clout. The third thing we mentioned was slow and deliberate movement. Slow and deliberate movement equals composure and authority. Gary's fast, he's reactive, and these motions scream stress. It's a trader habit, right? So if you want to dominate a room, slow down. Same things with breathing and speaking quickly. Deep breaths make you calm. Deep belly breaths increases your confidence. Shallow breaths mean fear. And again, talking quickly, if you're interrupting people, you sound agitated. The slower your speech, the larger your perceived authority. So he loses points there as well, because he just looks rude rather than passionate. These are just 5 of the cheat codes around authority. There are in fact loads more that if you want to know what they are and how they can be applied to you and your life, your work and business, then you can look below, and there's a link there to a full document that I've created, which goes into this in depth. So I thoroughly recommend having a read of that. You will not be disappointed. So remember, like, comment, subscribe. So until I see you in the next video, guys, take care. Bye for now.